call the meeting to order at 7:30. First item on the agenda this evening is 181 Rimmon Road, application for ground mount solar installation and trench installation to ground mount solar system. I just sign in and then take your name for the record, that way
Okay.
and you have all the information. Okay. Yeah, if you want to just briefly describe what's.
Yes, Kathy Wick, 181 Rimmon Road. We are proposing a ground mount solar installation, 45 solar panels. It would be approximately, as you see on the map, 47 feet by 18 feet. Given the configuration of the property, it doesn't work on the roof. The house is right next to densely wooded area with very tall trees. And also we couldn't get that many panels on the roof. This number of panels will cover the entire electrical needs of the property. And so obviously the disadvantage of a ground mount is that you have to get the energy from the panels to the house, and so there's a trench that's involved in doing that. And conduit, wires with conduit would be buried in the trench. It's about 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep. It would be dug and installed and refilled with the existing material in the same day. And the most direct route from the location to the house is through this wetland area that you see on the map. So that's what we're looking at.
What's the extent of the wetlands area? Is it just soil classification, or is there standing water?
No, there's no standing water, no. Yeah, it's just the soil classification.
And where the solar panels are going to be placed, is that lawn now, or is it
Yes.
open field?
Yes, open, it's like a meadow. My vegetable garden is down in that area, and it's a meadow area.
Terry, are you familiar with the?
I am. I've been to the property several times, just not recently, but I've never actually seen standing water there. I do believe that on the other side of Rimmon Road, it becomes more of a wetland area.
Right.
It's certainly by soil type, it's just a little vestige of wetlands. And many of these projects like this, are best accomplished, as you say, on a single day. Its extent is such that it can be done on a single day. And you probably don't want to choose the 20th day of rain to do it.
Right.
So we're having a nice dry season at the moment.
Exactly.
A small excavator could just do this very quickly.
Sure.
What's the ground cover there?
It's just sort of weeds, really. I mow part of it, and then I leave. I mow as little of it as I can get away with, actually, and then I leave a lot of it just sort of weeds, and I have it brush hog once a year so that it doesn't become forest. So I typically do that, Thanksgiving time. I have it brush hog so I don't get trees growing up. But other than that, it's not disturbed. And there are no large trees in this area either. There's just some sort of junk trees, basically. There is a big white oak specimen tree that I drew on the map, and my hope would be to skirt that and avoid going near the root system of that tree.
And the other reason, as a practical matter, I believe the electrical connection to your house, which the solar wants to hook up to,
Correct.
is on that side of the house, which
Correct.
you're aiming towards.
Yes.
And so that's the other reason, since this is all copper wire, it's important to understand the economy of direction.
Yeah, there's no easy way to get around the wetlands without having a huge
Well, you would have to go all the
Yeah.
way out and all the way back, and then actually you'd be going right next to that big oak tree.
Well,
Well,
there's
plus the
septic and
septic
the wide open.
is-
Right, and the septic is just above, exactly. So that's the reason that skirting the wetlands is tricky.
Anyone else have any questions about it? Do you think we need to go out and see it, or, I mean, we can't, unfortunately, just the way the process works, which you're probably familiar with, on some of the more simple things, we typically just delegate to Terry. He works it out with the applicant, they come up with a plan that works from an environmental standpoint. The issue here, though, is since you're going through the wetlands, we actually have to decide, and we can't delegate it to Terry.
Right.
We have to wait till next month
Right.
to act on it, so. If people really want to go out and see it, we can, it's up to you.
I'm comfortable with what Terry said.
As am I, but,
No, I agree. We don't need to go and see.
It seems safer to put the wire on the ground than on top.
yeah.
So this is going to be in a conduit.
Yes, in the conduit, buried in the trench, 2 feet by 2 feet.
Terry, do you have anything else or on this? Okay, well, we'll continue it to next month and we'll act on it at that point.
Okay.
All right,
So you don't need me to stay around tonight?
No.
Okay.
In fact, you check with Chris, may not even have to have you come back next month depending on what the consensus is, so we'll talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
Okay?
Wonderful, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, 17 Vernon Court, letter of request for determination of as of right, non-regulated farming use of on-site wetlands.
Good evening. My name's John Conway.
Okay, do you want to just sign in and then
Sure.
kind of will have your name on the...
My name's John Conway. I'm an attorney. I practice with the Wallingford law firm of Lockman Fitzgerald. I'm here today with Leland Torrance, his son Leland Torrance, and my son Will Conway. And they asked me to send a letter that was put on the agenda requesting a ruling under 4.4 that the farming activity that they are intending to do is explained in the letter. A ruling that it can be done on the wetlands as of right and without permit. I notice in Ms. Sullivan's memo that the property owner is Laura Torrance. I can certainly supplement the record tomorrow with her consent to the activity in the requested ruling. I stand on my letter. Section 4.4, it speaks for itself, I think, in the ruling we are entitled to. I was happy to have my son ask me to help him out with this endeavor that I think is a wonderful thing for Leland and William to do. And I took a little look at the law regarding, which I've otherwise not done. I'm a bit of a civil litigator, not much of a farmer lawyer, but hopefully maybe I will become as they become successful. And I have, just by way of anecdotal information, there is a 2016 Connecticut Supreme Court decision on this issue. I don't know if the agency's familiar with it. Indian Springland Company versus the Inland Wetlands Watercourse of the town of Greenwich. I don't know if I have a copy of it if you'd like, or if you're familiar with it, I'll shut up.
We're familiar with it.
Yeah, and it's, I just found it interesting, the final footnote for an Inland Wetland Committee, footnote 9, where Justice Espinoza says that we observe, however, that the legislature has already determined its preferred balance between these two competing goals, that is, wetlands regulation and farming, which broadly exempts agricultural activity from regulation, with the exception of several specific activities, none of which my clients intend to pursue. If you have any questions about the farming activity itself, I'll defer to the farmers.
Yeah, they gave us pretty good explanation last month when we were here. And, even though we may have to look at our process for getting to this point, I'm fairly well convinced that what they want to do is within the exempt activities. But I don't know, does anyone else have any questions about what they're going to do and how we have to proceed?
Not really.
Terry, do you have anything?
I concur with you, and I concur with the notion of farming. I do think that there is a sense of scale, which your clients have presented as a extremely modest, very low impact sense of scale. We try to encourage people to think of themselves as success. And that I think the hand pump is going to get really tiresome after very soon. I can just imagine that some alternative method might be sought for that just as a real practical thing. And I would encourage that when that happens, that you consider a long suction hose rather than putting a gasoline engine down by the wetlands. And I think that that's a reasonable accommodation to keep, I know that you're not proposing to do that now, but I've spent some time on the business end of a suction pump, and it just, it would get tiresome, I would think. So as you become successful, I would hope that you would apply some common sense in terms of where gasoline is stored and used.
Of course. Thank you for your consideration, appreciate it.
I mean, we want to just vote on this now, to just get it out of the way, and take a leave.
Yeah.
So basically, we just need to have a motion that the proposed activity at 17 Vernon Court, as described in the letter and the discussion last month, is within the exemption, farming exemption of the wetland regulations.
So move.
Okay, Dave, move.
Oh,
Okay.
and it's a question relative to the size of the operation, at what point in time, presuming success, which certainly we should success. Does anything change if all of a sudden it's an order of magnitude of, 3, 4, 5, 10?
Well, to the extent that like structures have to be built, then that changes it. The farming exemption is, just for farming basically, not for buildings or other types of things. So then we have to come back to that type of activity. But I mean, they could turn, at least my understanding is, the entire property can be turned into a mushroom farm as long as they don't build any buildings or build any roads or that kind of thing.
I think under the Indian Springs test, I don't think that scale matters. Because, the Indian Springs talked about a wide area of areas of Greenwich being converted to farming activity, which was tree harvesting. So I don't think that, I do think that Mr. Chairman, you're right, you're correct, is that roads, there's the worst sentence in all of Connecticut statutes, which goes some distance, by the way, to say that, is that sentence about roads.
Well, wait,
We don't,
I have it in front of me.
okay, it's not a good sentence.
No, but the Connecticut Supreme Court in Indian Springs says it meant what it means, which is that the provisions of this subdivision shall not be construed to include road construction or the erection of buildings not directly related to farming. And what they held in Indian Spring means you can build a road and you can build a building without you having any regulation over it, no jurisdiction to impose any regulation over it, so long as it's related to farming. Which is broad, and that's why they dropped the footnote that said, notwithstanding the fact that people think wetlands should be protected, the legislature has said farming can tromp on it with roads and buildings, and that's what they held in Indian Spring. And reversing Judge Berger, who's the the Superior Court land use judge, in a strong unanimous decision.
The use of the building for farming, it's got to be fairly narrow in my mind. But anyway, we're not at that point, so we don't have to worry about it. And
We're just going to start rolling some logs out on a beautiful fall afternoon,
Right.
if we get our motion passed.
Yeah. Okay, so Dave moved. Your issue addressed?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll second it.
Jack seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, you're approved.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Sorry, who
Dave Spirazini, Jack seconded. Okay, next time on the agenda, the old business, 1108 Johnson Road, application modified previous approval for deck addition to residence. Come on up. And just sign in like everybody else has, and then okay, so basically looking at changing around the deck approval, is that what we're-
Yes.
Okay. Harry, what do you have to say about this?
I do believe that you're required to rule on this, or at least to delegate it. Because once we get around to deciding to build the deck, we decided to build the deck differently. And I think there are elements of the deck, like the staircase, are closer to the pond. I don't think that it's a remarkably different. It isn't, it isn't fatally different. It's different.
Mhm.
So I think it's rightfully in front of you, but worthy of your consideration.
Do you think it's something, I mean, we can act on it because it's really a modification with another permit, is that?
Right, right.
Okay.
Did the old deck, which I don't remember, have stairs down?
They went down to the side of the house, where
In the other direction, kind
in
of.
the- right,
Yeah.
they were along instead of in the back of the house where we proposed to put the deck, they were on the side of the house. The main change that came about was we decided to make the deck smaller by eliminating the part of the deck that was on the side of the house and just bring the entire deck to the back of the house. And that requires, if we decide to have stairs, a stair that goes down into the backyard.
And the backyard already exists,
Yes.
Correct.
so there would be no further.
So as we describe it here, a previously disturbed area, you may describe it as your lawn, but
Right.
we're kind of coming from the other direction. So-
Okay.
So it's certainly a lawn area.
Any considerations relative to building the retaining wall? Does that require a silt fence or anything like that?
I think that some precautions need to be taken. You don't want to fill in the pond with any silt thing, so I think a silt fence is in order, but the usual precautions. There is not any particular change in grade there. It's fairly flat, so I think that we can probably achieve that without.
It says a retaining wall, but the deck will be sitting on the wall,
Correct.
so there will be stones and cement.
Yeah, the plan is cement.
I'm not so sure how much we're actually retaining. So
It's not much, but
Right.
Probably the recent hurricanes, which took down a couple of the trees that were in the backyard, in that area, revealed the fact that the grading of that area is actually higher than the house.
Mm.
And so the water was going into the house, as was the soil itself. So it was starting to migrate and was right up against the house. When I asked the architect to follow the previous permit, if he could come up with a solution that didn't involve grading the entire yard, which would obviously be a much greater disturbance to the wetlands area. So that was the solution, a small retaining wall to keep further erosion back toward the house from that happening.
The old this is the approval on all applications. The second page shows what the
And that's
previous
all
approval
trying to
was.
figure out what was
Yeah,
already approved.
that's what I was just trying to figure out.
So this is good, so a retaining wall, a post above it?
The post would sit on the retaining wall.
Oh,
rather than just being in the ground posts.
Okay, just so I get my orientation straight, the new proposed deck is all to the rear of the house instead of the side, is that it?
That's correct.
Okay.
The part on the side would be eliminated as would that staircase on the side.
so it's still gonna be to the left or right, whatever the right direction of the slider coming out of the walkout?
Give you some, a view of the back of the house. And the deck now will be not as wide as what's currently shown in the approval, or?
Actually, the deck itself will be about 400 square feet as opposed to a much larger amount. And it will be, it will fit on this footprint of the support posts in this thing, although we're putting in the retaining wall to keep the ground from coming back to the house. And it will cantilever out. So it will have a kind of a cantilever above that goes out but doesn't touch the ground anywhere.
Okay.
That's
So,
the triangle space.
Yeah, the triangle space cantilevers out beyond the supports. Basically, the dotted line underneath the little triangle part is exactly where the previous permit for additional supports went.
oh, okay, so the dotted line that's
That's-
shown in the deck is the old approval line, basically,
Exactly.
where the wall will be instead of the
Yes,
sonotubes.
exactly. And we do have, Quinnipiac Valley Health has already given a permit for it too. They've reviewed it.
Any opinion, Terry?
I think that, you know, that it's a, you know, if keeping them in cantilever, you know, there's probably not with exception of the stair.
Right.
And the stair will likely need some support at the bottom of the stair, but it easily achieved without much disruption.
Plus, it exits on existing lawn as it is, so it's not like
Exactly.
we're expanding the lawn toward the pond or doing any
Exactly.
changes in that regard.
Make sure the cantilever is well attached to the house.
That's why I have an architect and a good engineer.
And you need a good builder too.
Well, that too.
You know,
I'm not gonna do it myself, that's to be sure.
Another thing.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, all right, you want to just act on this now while the applicant's here? So do we have any special conditions? I wouldn't think so. Basically, it's just a motion to modify the existing permit per the revised application. You have a motion to that effect?
Well, as long as we have the normal, the silk fence and this stuff.
And that's part of the original.
Yeah, and this will
Oh,
just
was it?
be a
Okay.
change, yeah, this will be just, usually conditions are in the original permit, so. So do we have a motion to modify the permit for the sketch?
So,
Josh moved, Josh Goldberg moved.
I will second.
Okay, Barry seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions, 5-0.
Thank you.
Sir, have a good evening. Okay. Moving right along. So that's on the agenda. Okay, here we are. All right, next item on the agenda, 12 Zack Hill Drive, application for residential site development of property, tenant request for reduction in application fee, previously approved permit which has expired. All right, first, Mr. Zack had, this is just for the benefit of those who hadn't been here a couple of years ago, 5, 6 years ago, whenever it was. This was an application that went on for about a year. It involved the regrading of a lot, some wetlands issues that resulted as a result of filling and regrading of the top of a mountain, basically. Finally was approved. A lot of engineering work, a lot of expense. The applicant paid for a lot of fees the first time. So what he's looking to do, if I can correct me if I don't have this right, is to just reapprove the prior permit. We probably were out there once or twice. Yeah, and walking up and down hills and going on and on. But he let the permit expire, so therefore, technically it's a new permit, but what he's looking for is just a reinstatement of the old permit on the same terms and conditions that we had last time. Yeah, we had a bond too, I thought, didn't we, on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Intact. And the only reason that he's in front of us now, wishes this reinstatement, although it's a new permit, is that he now seeks to build a house. And it's my understanding that largely the place has been regraded according to the design that we approved. It has not yet been inspected by Bob Criscola or myself. However, you know, a large percentage of the work has been stated, and what's largely left, Mr. Zackworthy's testimony to me is that he now wishes to dig out the basement of the house that's been brought to its desired grade. And he'll have some minor amounts of fill. It's a modestly narrow house. It's a long house, but it limits the amount of excavation necessary on top of that pad that he prepared as a previous thing. So we've determined that while he had both a wetlands permit and an excavation permit from the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, that this activity, we believe, will not raise and trigger the excavation permit, which also had expired. But we think it's prudent to have him have a wetlands permit, and he's made this application. We support his request for a reduced application fee because we don't think there needs any engineering review. Circumstances have not changed. It is certainly a highly reviewed site. Since we retain the bond, should upon inspection of the agency's engineer, anything remedial action be required, there's adequate bonding capacity present in hand, so to resolve those issues. So we think that this new permit it has some legs to stand.
Question about the excavation for this house. Is there any likelihood that he's gonna hit rock?
I think he did, and he moved it. And so the site preparation, and in
Okay,
fact, it's our understanding and belief that the septic system has already been installed and approved by the health district. So it is literally the excavation for a basement of a home, which is the only thing that's left to do in terms of site development.
that's great, I just was concerned he might be blasting.
Not likely.
Okay.
You know, listen, the kind of rock that's there is largely a diggable shale.
Okay.
We did blast on the next, I believe, the next site over, the next ravine over, there was blasting. So it could happen. I'm not concerned about it even if it does. It's the most regulated activity in Connecticut.
That's great.
And gleefully not by us, by the way, but under the jurisdiction of our.
Okay, well, the first item to deal with is just the request for a reduced, basically just a basic application fee rather than requiring any further supplemental funds for engineering review, which I don't think are necessary based on his request, so, do we have a motion to allow the, okay, go ahead.
You've been out to the property recently,
I have not been out to the property recently.
so there's,
Yeah, I've been out to the property in a year or so, but not
you
recently.
would not suspect any substantial changes have been made
I do not believe so.
with the permit, presuming that you'll still be inspecting
Yes, sir.
the excavation and
Mhm.
all that, and the bond is still in place.
Correct. And what's in front of you, the reduced fee or the normal fee, you know, we use that fee, by the way, for very expensive newspaper advertising. It's astonishing how much those little tiny little ads cost. I can't believe anybody has ads, you know, for used tires in a newspaper. I don't see how they can afford that. It must be at a different rate. That legal ad is very expensive.
Someday we gotta work toward a requirement that all you have to do is post it on the town website, because more people probably read that than the newspapers at this point, so.
I don't think that many people eat fish that need the newspapers so much, but, but I think the legislature would have to help
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
definitely. Nothing we can do about that.
Mhm.
All right, then the first item is, do we have a motion to permit the applicant to simply just pay the base application fee rather than any supplemental engineering fees based on what he would otherwise have to pay under the regulations?
Does anybody know what the dollar figure is on? How much money?
I think
They're usually pretty
it was
small.
like it was about $150.
I was gonna say 180 off the top of my head. I don't know if Christine captured that information.
Yeah, it's not in the.
But it can easily get into the thousands with the complex applications and.
What we typically do is we collect based on an estimate of what our review cost would be, and the applicant has to pay that before we get into our review of the applicant's materials. We get that up front, so we don't get stuck later if it gets denied, so. I'm not sure we recover 100%, but we try to get a good chunk of it at least, so.
It largely works out. You know, we frankly don't have any materials to review, number one, because the applicant's story is that there isn't any work. We did take a close look at how much material would be having to be moved to accommodate the basement. And because of the site, it's a very, you know, the house lot site, the actual buildable area, because of terrain, is very narrow. He has some his proposal has unchanged from the prior application. And if you recall, it's basically a one-room long house, wide and very long. So it makes the basement excavation rather modest.
Is this the house on the very end, on the right-hand side if you're going down?
It's
Not
not
the
yet
very
built.
end, but the last buildable set on the right-hand side?
Yeah, there is another lot beyond this lot,
Yeah, okay.
but this is the first lot at the end of the cul-de-sac on the right, high up.
It is diagonal, very narrow, slightly back.
Right.
Be interesting to see what he can make out of that site.
He has an ambitious plan.
Yeah, it's, well, if you guys want, are curious to see it.
I'm guessing he owned that whole property at one time?
Whole Zackville Drive.
Yeah.
Right.
He's just waiting for, is that gonna be his home? Or he's
That's
gonna
what he
get a
said.
site?
That's what he said.
Give you a little better sense for.
That's an interesting lot to keep out of all those, but
Uh-huh.
I guess it's harder to sell it. 'Cause it is tough.
I believe that he thinks it's the best lot.
Really? Because I have customers in that area, so I know that lot
as well.
That's okay,
Uh-huh.
if they wanna see it,
Okay.
too. And just so you know too, the bond for the site was $15,000. Let's see what else there should mention here. Yeah, the prior plan was very heavily discussed and analyzed, and revised multiple times. It's an unusual house, but
It's a spaceship.
okay, so the first item is to act on is the waiver of any additional fees other than the base application fee for the ZAC application. We have a motion to that effect. Jack Moore, we have a second. Dave seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You're opposed?
No.
Oh, okay, 5-0, the waiver of additional fees is approved. And then I don't know if anyone wants to, the prior approval was pretty much other than the bond, with the usual conditions and, referencing the plans, which had their own conditions on there. So there was really nothing else that was unusual in the approval itself, other than heavily discussed and revised plans. So therefore, what the applicant is looking for is just a new approval with the same conditions as in the same plans as the August 17, 2012. You sure, is it really expired if it's on 2012?
5 years.
5 years, right?
But I thought, didn't they,
We took it through that, there's a matrix.
okay, so you followed the matrix, okay.
We-
Because some are 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
It's very complicated, by the way.
Okay, yeah, fine, then I don't want to get into it.
Right.
So therefore, he's looking for a renewal, so we'll, do we have a motion to approve the application in accordance with the terms of the August 2012 prior approval of the property? Jack moves, we have a second? Anyone want a second?
Or,
Okay, Josh seconded, all in favor?
you didn't walk the property.
What?
Yeah, they didn't walk the property.
Well, no, Jack was here then.
I didn't,
Yeah,
You did?
Barry,
Couple
were you?
times.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's why you got a motion, you're a loyal guy.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions? Okay, 5-0 approved.
I
Okay,
think we're gonna move it
yeah. Okay, moving on, we'll just get this stuff out of the way. Okay. No new correspondence, enforcement officer report. Anything going on, Terry, that we have to worry about?
Nothing that you have to worry about.
Okay. Anything anybody else is concerned about that we shouldn't make Terry worry about? Okay, that's even better.
Any news about 220 Seymour Road?
No news.
Okay.
They're working
No
on it.
good news, no bad news,
Well, hey, I didn't say what kind, just news.
no news.
Okay.
Or how about even the Ansonia Road property, I think we denied the application last month.
We're endeavoring in an enforcement action against that.
Okay.
Okay. No site visits. Approval of minutes. The only one I had in my package was August 30th.
Mr. Chairman, before that?
Yeah, okay.
Could we have your consideration on some delegation for some,
Oh,
some
the
bonds?
bonds, yeah, you're right. Okay. First, let me just see. It's not on the agenda, but let me, which one? Well, I have
19
this one.
Diane, for example.
Oh, okay, and then he's looking for a partial reduction?
Correct.
Yeah.
And Mr. Criscola and I are scheduled to be out there on Monday. I can report that the single-family house is largely complete, not yet occupied, they're finishing the house. But that, what I mean to say is that they're doing, sundry millwork, it's painted, it's, complete. The builder, Mr. Olson, tells us that the site is ready to be inspected. We have a $50,000 cash bond.
Oh, that's right, that was the hill with the
Right.
driveway.
It was a very large amount of work.
Mhm.
And we share this agency shares this bond with the Town Planning and Zoning Commission and their excavation permit. It is large because of that excavation permit. The task that they accomplished was very difficult and challenging,
Mhm.
and had very tight time frames about when they could work and that sort of thing. And, I don't know how much of the neighborhood was adversely affected by it, but, we haven't had a lot of complaints, quite frankly, about it. So we'll see on the inspection, but we would ask in terms of timing, because it's a large bond, that if you would kindly delegate this to both Bob and myself, I think it's a fair outcome. If there's something to be done, we intend to have to do it, but we'll see on Monday.
Yeah, well, we're relying on your recommendation anyway when we do this.
So would you, if there's stuff to be done, you would reduce it, but not, depending on what?
We like to talk about growing seasons, by the way, in terms of, sediment and soil erosion control. And we think that there needs to be at least 2 seasons to establish root growth. And without failure, people find that remarkably long. But our experience is that it takes that second growing season to get that root growth involved. So, he presently has a growing season underway right now, and he's established the site. However, we need another growing season. So, if he's done it perfectly, most don't do everything perfectly, by the way, but if he does it perfectly, we might be in the business of recommending that we leave $5,000 on it as a sediment and soil erosion control bond, just to get that second season going. But, there is not $45,000 worth of work that's in danger there.
Okay.
So,
All right, then, do we have a motion to allow Terry delegate to Terry and Bob to act in their discretion as far as the release of the bond, acting in conjunction with TP&Z?
yes.
So, Josh moved, we have a second.
I'll say.
Jack seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, okay, that's 5-0. Now, the other one seems even more simple.
It is.
Osborne Lane request for reduction of bond, the properties that were subject to the bond have been deeded to the land trust, so therefore they're not gonna be developed, so the developer, the applicant on the old permits is looking for his money back, which seems appropriate to do, correct?
Correct. Quite remarkably, by the way, if you might recall, this might have been one of the most contested wetlands applications.
We had reduced number of lots too in this.
We
didn't
reduced lots, we made them build stone walls. This is the first time we hired Dr. Clemens.
Yeah.
It was quite a long subdivision.
So no stone walls, huh?
Well,
No
don't need
buildings
them.
either, so.
We don't need them. Nothing has ever been done.
Yeah.
We also have a bond for monuments that don't need to be placed. And by the way, this could not be the better solution to this property. The marketplace spoke. No one wanted to buy these lots that were like dark and wet. So I think that, the marketplace has really spoken the same way we spoke. It's interesting.
Okay, so we have a motion to have Terry release the bonds with respect to the Osborne Lane lots that are subject to the request.
I'll make that motion. Yes,
Dave moves, second.
I'll second.
Jack second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, okay. That's done. Let's see if there's anything else on this before I jump to minutes again. Okay. All right, minutes. I just got the the August 30th minutes. I didn't, even though the agenda lists another one, I don't know if other people got them.
I was
Yeah, okay. So on the August 30th minutes, Just had a couple of comments. I was probably being redundant, but twice I noted that the site was inspected by the agency just prior to the special meeting, so that paragraph was, that sentence was repeated twice under the Vernon Court application. And then the last bullet point doesn't make any sense to me, so I was thinking we just take it out unless somebody knows what we said.
I think there's no evidence of any work done directly.
Any new work that might have occurred directly or new activity?
I'm okay with taking it out too.
Activity, we worked in his garden and stuff.
Yeah, so there might have been any new activity or activities, when we say activities. Anybody have anything else?
Well, I thought the verb tense was wrong in the copies of an email forwarded.
Oh,
Copies were distributed,
Yeah.
but not copies were.
okay. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Gary moved, second. Jack seconded it, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, okay, approved 5-0. Okay, folks, anything else we have to talk about? Terry, anything else we need to discuss?
I think we're okay.
All right, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
But
Oh, okay.
one particular point, on that 19 Diana Drive, I'm recused from that, so
Oh,
for the record, you might have to, I kept my hands down. but you
Oh,
might
okay.
want to
Sorry
appoint
then.
someone else, I just thought of that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, probably should have done that. Okay, hold on. Go back to my notes. Okay, so Barry was recused on 19 Diana. Tell you what, Gene was subbing last week, last month. So Josh, how would you have voted on this so we can just correct the vote record? Or do you not know enough about it? It's just a bond release anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so Josh was an affirmative vote on that, so, okay, we corrected that. Anything else we need to talk about? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll
Anybody?
make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay, we are all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, okay, we're done, 8:17. Thank you.
That's it.
Nice businessman.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. We don't have too much coming up. We've pretty much cleared out the agenda now, so we'll see what happens for next month. So may or may not have a meeting. I mean,
You see what happened?
Well,
yeah.
we have to decide on, we're gonna have to decide on Kathy. Right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we do. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, we may want to just discuss that right now as far as whether we want to make her come back next month to hear the decision, or whether everybody's pretty much set with it. You know, I mean, she's always welcome to come, but I don't see really any.
Yeah, as long as it's, it sounds like it's a marginal wetlands.
Yeah, that was really key, yeah. It's just,
You don't
But
think
the
it's a big
wetlands and the property next to it that wasn't really shown on the map is not more significant or won't be affected.
you know,
Probably really across Redmond Road,
Yeah.
and, you know, I don't think there may be an under drain across that road, across that state road. But I've never seen any actual water, so I don't think there's any erosion things. And if that thing's gonna change.
It's gonna dig it out, put it back in.
yeah.
It's a 4-inch pipe or 3-inch pipe, whatever it is.
Right. So,
well, if she calls Chris, you know, she's welcome to come, or probably doesn't need to come because we don't need her to say anything else next time. So. All right. Anything else anybody wants to talk about?
So the Yankees.
Gotta get home.
it was 3-0.
Oh, was it?
Score
So,
nothing,
yeah.
actually.
Oh, it's
It's 5-0.
It was 5-0.
Which
You watching it over there?
I had my phone was over there.
Out of reach.
Yeah. I didn't know if I was seated.
I think they
Bottom
had
of the eighth, going home.
Pardon me?
Bottom of the eighth.
Bottom of the
Yeah,
eighth,
bottom
wow.
of the eighth, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, well, thank you for coming out,
Seen it, you know,
and hopefully we won't have much